Hey, I'm back. Okay, heavy stuff coming. I'm going to warn you. For me, this material, life-changing, incredibly painful, incredibly difficult. And I am so grateful that in the early 1980s, I met a woman named Greenleaf. Now, I didn't meet her as much personally as I attended a training that she was providing. And a training we had never seen before. And it turns out, as I kind of researched this class and all of that, she was the first to really do it. And she put together and talked about this idea of dysfunctional family rules. She put it in a book called Co-Alcoholic, is a pamphlet really, Co-Alcoholic, Para-Alcoholic, Who's Who and What's the Difference? Well, so this is an adapted chat from her chat. And again, I found this absolutely game changing for me. And it allowed me to enter into recovery from my codependency. Okay. You're going to hear some wild personal stories here as I work through her material, because this was real life for me and going through. And in those many years, frankly, decades since then, I have just seen the truth of her presentation be expressed again and again and again. So let me just remind you of a few things. That the dynamics of homes with addictive disease, it's all about the unpredictable and inconsistent behavior. Remember the kid, boom, getting punched in the face? So they don't know what's going to happen next time. That childhood trauma, that lack of safety provides this tension in the body, this hypervigilance, this hyperarousal. How in the world are they going to cope with it? Well, so what we're going to describe is what J.L. Greenleaf, and then I'm going to give you my interpretation of that, described as safety strategies. So first thing, meaningful communication is all driven underground because it doesn't do any good to talk about it. And in fact, it's dangerous. So sometimes you're going to see me getting close to the screen. That's because I have notes over here and I am needing to stand up for this part. Okay, so it's absolutely forbidden to talk about this thing. So what happens? Certain rules emerge. Let's talk about those rules. These are not healthy rules. These are weird-ass rules that no one can tell you they exist in this family. Why? Because meaningful communication is driven underground. So let's talk about some healthy rules. In a healthy family, you got to have healthy boundaries and healthy parameters of behavior. And everyone needs to know what they are. What time do you go to bed? Do you got chores? Is there a certain language that's okay, not okay? All of those things should be worked through, talked about, and it's clear what it means if you do it and if you don't do them. As the family matures, the rules should get less and less until finally people enter adult status, right? These are rules that could appear on someone's refrigerator, right? So you know what the rules are, you know the chore list and all of that. The rules I'm talking about aren't those. The rules I'm talking about are unspoken, and we know them in our bones. Why? If someone violates one of the rules, that none of us could tell you what the rules are, but if someone violates one of the rules, tension comes up, fear and anxiety comes up. It feels like what JL said. It's like a neutron bomb is going to go off if you break one of these rules. So these are rules that exist. Why? They just rise up in the family in an attempt to provide safety in the family, because it's within the context, there's a primary authority, mother or father, in the house. I guess it could be others, but primarily mother or father, in the house that have addictive disease. My invitation to you is think about, do any of these rules apply to you? Because this is what we do. We learn them as kids, and then if we don't have consciousness about them, we recreate in our adult lives relationships based upon these rules on an unconscious level. Yikes! Yep, we're talking about a broken picker. If you have a broken picker, this is very likely the origin of that broken picker. So this whole idea of the unconscious, that we create in our adult lives those vibrations, the level of tension, the way of being that we experience as children. Rule number 1, according to JL, is don't talk about it. Imagine, to really kind of grasp these rules, imagine that dad's alcoholic and a 7-year-old comes home one day and says, Dad, guess what? I learned a new word in school today. It's alcoholic. You're alcoholic, aren't you, Dad? How well do you think that would go? If the kid spoke directly about this, it wouldn't go well at all. In fact, the whole family would go, oh my God, what have you done? I had a client in treatment. This was many years ago in Roseburg when I worked there, and a client who was actually doing pretty well. And I had asked his daughter, who had come in for a family group, a pretty good question. It's just terrible timing, and I was being very naive. This is a question I asked her after knowing her maybe 15 minutes. Hey, so your father is saying he believes he's alcoholic. Could you describe to me a time in your life, a story, if you will, that helps you be convinced that your father is alcoholic? She looked at me and the tears started to flow. She never said a word. She had learned a long time ago, we don't talk about this. And even though I was asking her, some guy she doesn't know, to break that rule, and even her father was encouraging her to break that rule, she absolutely couldn't do it. Don't talk about it was in her bones. Here's part of the backstory. Dad was the kind of guy who would, and so this is her father in this scenario, was the kind of guy who would drink, get drunk, and fall down in the family home. The family later, I learned, would report that it wasn't unusual for them to have to step over Dad. Okay? So imagine you live in a house, Dad's sometimes drunk. To get to your bedroom or bathroom, you got to step over Dad. Here's a weird part. Not once in the history of this family did anyone mention that to each other. Direct talking, no. Forbidden, unsafe, red alarm goes off. So if this happens, it's incredibly nerve-wracking for the person. It's incredibly upsetting to them. So what do? They develop a life in which they don't have to speak directly to things. And often you'll see that these kids come up, they're raised, and then as adults, it's very hard for them to say whatever their truth is. Why? It feels incredibly dangerous. So these are people who often won't get to the point. These are people who will speak metaphorically. These are people who will speak around things. These may be people who become artists so they can express themselves but indirectly. And I hope as a addiction counseling professional, you would notice you need to learn how to say things directly and help people do that. And this could become an issue of countertransference if that feels dangerous to you to say that truth. But if I learn these things when I'm 7 and I then become later in life, let's say 27 or whatever, and I am trying to create an adult relationship based upon this don't talk rule, I wonder how that could go. Hey, check this out. So Julie was wife number 1, and when I met Julie, I was really interested in Julie, and I went out with her for a couple times, and it turns out that she would then have nothing to do with me. Upon further review, and this is really at the end of the story, upon further review, what I learned much, much later is that I had married a practicing addict, even though I never saw her have loss of control once in her life. How is that? Well, it turns out my father was alcoholic. He did all of his drinking outside of the home. What we saw inside of the home, and I didn't see his drinking until maybe I was in my early teens, but inside the home we saw the irritability, all the unpredictable behavior, and we saw all of that. We just didn't see the intoxication. Is that awesome or what? I found an invisible addict that directly paralleled my father's individual, invisible addiction in my modern day relationship. Yeah, and I married the girl. What could have gone wrong there? And you know how I found out about it? She called me from detox. They thought they were going to lose her. Is that wild? Oh my God. Okay, let's talk about rule number 2. Rule number 1, don't talk about it. Rule number 2, don't feel. Where would you get a feeling vocabulary in a family that's repressing emotions? That's saying, don't go there. We can't have feelings. Almost any treatment center you're going to ever go to, you'll see people, they have all kinds of feeling vocabulary sheets, little faces, a smile and angry and all of that. And the majority of the clients they serve are going to be people who are not well dressed in identifying their feelings. And again, could you imagine the 7-year-old coming home and saying to dad, hey, dad, I'm feeling a little insecure and anxious. Not sure what's going to happen when I get home tonight. No one in this family is having this feeling vocabulary. The kid doesn't learn it, and they learn whatever they learn, it's not safe anyway. So you take this child, you put him into an adult body, and later in life, people go, well, tell me how you feel. And they go, hell no. Why? It's fear of vulnerability. I can't really say how I feel because I don't know. I don't have the vocabulary for it. And B, if I express it, that may not go well for me. So all their, again, from a cellular level, at their bones are saying, don't go there. In almost every training I do, I pass out feeling list. I tell people, it's okay. It's skills you can learn. The hard part is allowing yourself to know that being vulnerable is actually a superpower. And it's a superpower connected to empathy. And if you want to be a good provider, you're going to have to learn how to trust your own feelings, feel safe with your own feelings so you can respond to others. But wait a minute. Or you can create a relationship with a person who something's messed up with them, like Julie, that you can have a lot of feelings about, but not express. Hey, that's kind of, upon further review, that's kind of familiar. That makes some sense. Okay. Tell you more about that story in a minute. Let's do the next one. Big one. Don't trust. Think about that 7-year-old again. Look how dangerous it is for the 7-year-old to actually trust someone who's unpredictable and inconsistent. Imagine you say to the 7-year-old, hey, it's your birthday Saturday, let me take you fishing. Saturday comes up and the kid's all excited and we're going fishing, going to catch a big one. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. And dad, in this case, the addicted person, dad says, what? Oh yeah, we'll do that next Saturday. Maybe dad's hungover. Maybe he's on his way to drink. Maybe he's picking up whatever is the damage from whatever happened the night before. But the kid is crushed, not going fishing. But dad says, hey, we'll go next Saturday. And next Saturday, the little kid's excited. And yay, let's go fishing and let's go do this thing. And they don't go fishing. Because of that unpredictable and inconsistent behavior, the child will learn this. It doesn't matter what the addicted person says. They cannot trust the words. That child needs to learn for their own just safety. You're going to be going fishing when you're in the boat or wherever with a fishing rod in your hand going fishing. Don't trust what people say. Trust what people do. And even there you're kind of, How could that create a problem later in life when you're going to, attract someone who can have problems that you can't talk about, that you can have feelings about, but you won't know what they are and won't be safe to express, and you already know they're not trustworthy? Oh my God. Julie. Okay. Come on, it can't be that bad. Be emotionally available. Now, this one's awesome. It's a little hard to understand, and it's a huge one to resolve to prevent burnout. Okay? So be emotionally available is a good thing. So there are times that I'm going to go talk to my wife and something's going to have happened with her father, or maybe some frustration she had in the day, and maybe when one of the kids got something going on, and that she wants to talk about it. And it's my job to listen to her, to be responsive to her stories and her feelings, to provide a place for her to process that. That's being emotionally available. I care, I give presence, I will prove that I'm hearing what she's saying. That's empathy, that's awesome. And then other times, she'll do the same for me. I'll be frustrated by this or that. I'll need to tell a story about this or that. Awesome. I need her support as much as she needs mine. So we have a mutually reciprocal emotional availability. We take turns. We give it to each other. Now, as I fix my computer here, so it's not the emotional availability that's the issue. It's the imbalance in this emotional availability. So the child can learn that it's their job to provide emotional support to either their non-addicted parent or their addicted parent, or both. Imagine, and this has happened a lot. Imagine, let's say I'm the codependent and I come home and I'm talking to my 11-year-old kid and I ask them, have you seen your mother? And they go, well, no, I haven't seen your mother. Well, what am I supposed to do? See what I'm doing? I'm putting great pressure on this kid. She could be out drinking. I mean, when's the last time you saw her? Where do you think she's at? And I'll continue to put pressure on this kid to give me emotional support. Often these kids will become the hero child we talk about later, and they think it's their job to give me the emotional support. Hell, they may be doing the laundry, they may be cooking food, they may be driving around looking. I've known stories of that, 13, 14-year-olds that are driving around looking for the addicted parent. They get in their head, that's their job, to be emotionally available. So, but we're not done with him yet. Now, maybe the alcoholic, the addicted person comes home and they do that kind of weird thing. They wake up the kid, knock, knock, knock. Hey, can you imagine that? There you are late at night, the kid's been woken up, and in this case, intoxicated person goes, hey, are you awake? Hey, don't you think I'm a good father? Don't you know how hard I try? Whoa. So now all of a sudden, the kid is needing to give emotional support to not only the codependent, but the alcoholic. So these children learn to be emotionally available. Awesome. Uh-oh. Here's the part of the equation that's missing. They don't learn that they need people to be emotionally available to them. Back to Julie. So early in my dating career with Julie, she had talked about, and I'm a flaming codependent in these years, she had talked about being abused by her previous relationship. And in fact, he was stalking her. Now, as a flaming codependent, what effect do you think that had on me? Made her more attractive. That's someone to save. That's someone I can protect. That's someone I can be emotionally available to. It can be all about her and not about me. Sweet! On an unconscious level, she was perfect for my pathology. Awesome. We actually got married. We did. I know. My family said, Johnny, what are you doing? They met her one time. As a result of them meeting her, they gave me, kind of quietly, they weren't terrible about it, but they basically said, what the hell are you doing? This is bad. This is what I said to them. Not much. I just didn't invite them to the wedding. They broke the don't talk rule. They questioned what I was doing. I had the greatest codependent defense in the world, though. Julie and I had been out, and we had gotten a fortune cookie at a Chinese restaurant. And that fortune cookie actually had the word marriage in it. That's right. You think I'm kidding. I am not kidding. In this codependent brain, I use that to create the best defense ever about bad choices in life. Ready? It's what God wanted me to do. I know. Why else would God give me this fortune cookie with the word marriage in it? My mother, at one point in this story, actually had, I come from a very Catholic family, and she had Sister Marguerite call me to just very gently say, hey, Johnny, your family's worried, and what are you doing? And I gave her the God defense. Sister, I know my family doesn't really understand. I just know what I'm doing is what God wants me to do. Whoa, hard to argue with. Okay, so now I know what my job is. Don't talk about it, don't feel, don't trust, be emotionally available. Before I tell you more of the Julie story, let's go to another rule. Don't get to know what you want. This one's easy. Who asked the kid? How much energy was available to say to the kid, what do you want to eat? What's your favorite color? What do you like to do for fun? What happened at school for you? All of those things that are so important as kids figure out what they want, it's part of identifying who they are. But if there's no energy in the family available to help focus on a kid, what do you want? What do you like? The kid will learn, no, don't get to know what you want. So when you're an adult with this rule, when surrounded by all these plethora of choices, what do you want to do tonight? What do you want to do this weekend? What movie do you want to watch? That, I don't know, get to know what I want. And underlining all that is this great vulnerability. If I say what I want, I might get punished for it. That's what happens with the 7-year-old. So these folks, and I'm just going to tell you the secret, we're boring as hell if we can't figure out what we want. And then guess what? We get to change our minds. But now imagine this. You're 7. You're now later on in life looking for a relationship. And someone says, I want you. Well, if I don't get to know what I want and you want me, that's kind of a done deal. Uh-oh. I really married her, didn't I? Crap. You mean these were the lessons I learned as a child being expressed in my adult life? And I blamed her for them? Because about 2 weeks after we got married, ooh, this is a brutal story. About 2 weeks after we got married, I came home and she was in bad shape. She was bleeding and spontaneously, not that she had cut or had an accident, but lots of her was bleeding. And it's like, what the hell? So I run downstairs and I get the car running, and then I run upstairs. The keys were left in the car. Dudes, I broke the door down. I want you to check out this heroic arm right there in which I was able to break the doors down. It was awesome from a codependent point of view. I was so alive because I had someone to protect, that it was all about them and it didn't need to really involve me. Yes, I got in my chariot. I took her to the hospital. And then it got even better from a codependent point of view. I hope you see how this setup works. So Julie, after this is all resolved in terms of the emergence of what was going on, and she's going to be okay for now, she goes, hey, Johnny. I go, what's that? Yeah, I have a terminal disease. And she told me it had a real long name. Oh, and she said, yeah, and you can't talk to my doctor about it. Really? And you can't talk to my counselor about it. A, you got a counselor? B, oh. Is this perfect or what? I got a woman with all this stuff going on that we cannot talk about, that I cannot feel about. Clearly, how do you trust that? She may die, but we're not going to talk about it. Be emotionally available. That's my job description. Don't get to know what I want. How dare I want anything? She might be dying. We literally never talked about it again. I know. I didn't say this was a tape about how awesome and healthy I was early in my career. Fine, deal with it. Turns out, after being married to her for a little while, I got a new job, which required that I move cities. And I come home one day and I go, honey, hey, I got this new offer to go from, which was Medford to Roseburg. Better job, but basically a couple steps up, and that was cool. I go, honey, what do you think? Should I take it? She goes, I think you should. I go, cool. She goes, I'll join you as soon as I get out of school. And I said, you're in school? Oh, okay. So I moved, she moved. She just wouldn't tell me where. Is that a problem? But as a flaming codependent, I know, you're all rolling your eyes and you're going, holy shit. I know. But as a flaming codependent, I knew what my job was. Try harder. Yep. I took every penny I had that I made at that new job, would not buy a car, got a crappy apartment of getting money together until she could come join me. Only problem is she wouldn't tell me where she moved to and she wouldn't let me visit. I know. But why didn't I divorce her? Because of the next rule. You can't reject another. That child, now, according to Stephanie Brown, there may be a gender difference in this, that in general, men married or coupled with addicted spouses tend to leave them. Women coupled with addictive spouses tend to stay with them. Yeah. But I learned it. I learned it at home. My mother never did divorce my father, who was definitely alcoholic and had all the trimmings that go along with that. So I learned, can't reject another. Oh my God. And then the final rule, can't act upon own behalf. See, I'm great at sticking up for other people, but I didn't know how to stick up for myself. I could stick up in my scenario for mom, but not for myself. Why? Because then I could get the wrath of everyone, including the alcoholic and the codependent and other parts of the family. So I hope you see that if we don't address these rules in our life, we will tend to replicate them. But I didn't know that. It's right at this juncture that I went to this training from J.L. Greenleaf. And J.L. said, okay, now, if you have any of these rules in your life, don't try and change them all. Pick one. Okay, I said to myself. And I only thought this. I didn't even do it. I only thought this. And at one point, Julie did return to me for 3 months before then she left again. And it was during this time that she had returned that I was learning this stuff. And I said, okay, Kentucky Fried Chicken in the park, she can come with me or not. Just having that thought, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. Remember when I said that it feels like a neutron bomb going off? Oh my God, that's what it felt like. Ringing in the ears, narrowing of peripheral vision, racing heart, massive fight or flight anxiety attack. Just thinking about it. I later was to begin to very slowly, and this was with the aid of friends, pick movies, I didn't know what to go to, but I had to pick. I had to pick food. Oh my God, I joined a dance troupe. You're not ready for this. I became part of a jazz dance ensemble. Why? Could I dance? No. But they couldn't find another guy, and I was the only one who could help women with lifts and that kind of thing. Oh my God. Julie left again. And after I began to learn these things, I began to learn some important things that went with them. And that is, whenever you have hope, if you're grieving the loss of something, if you have hope, the grieving process will start over again. My bottom, we've talked about hitting bottom, for my codependency was much more painful and difficult for me than my bottom from my addictive disease. I never really wanted to kill myself, but I wanted to die every day. It was so painful. So finally I learned I need to treat my relationship with Julie differently. As I began to build some boundaries for myself, she began to write me letters and I began to throw them away because there was nothing but pain inside of those letters. I didn't have to open that letter. When she called on the phone, I wouldn't be nice. I'd say, what do you want? Business, business, business. What do you want? So I slowly began to get some autonomy back. And that's when I got the phone call that she was in serious withdrawal. And that's when I got the realization that I had married a practicing addict and didn't know it. To this day, I don't know what the true story is. I don't really know what happened. Turns out she lied about lots of things. The only thing I'm sure about is I think I knew what her name was. Again, I picked her. That's my work to be done. Eventually, the biggest hurdle for me, hey, by the way, did I have any reason to divorce her here? I know, pretty obvious, right? I couldn't do it. It ripped my heart out. Why? That rule, can't reject another. Even though it was so obvious that I needed to get divorced, I couldn't see it. I couldn't do it. It was really painful until my mother said to me, Johnny, I know, ironic, Johnny, you need to get divorced. I'll pay for it if you need me to. Whoa. My Catholic mother telling me that kind of really woke me up. And eventually I did divorce Julie. Follow up to the story. So probably more than a year after I actually divorced her, I relapsed a bit. Now, not on chemicals, but on the idea of her. So I called her. Now, if I'm being honest with you, what I said to myself, I was calling her, to make amends and put resentments behind me and all of that. Oh, bullshit. I was calling her to see if she was available. Just saying, I'm telling you the truth. So I call her up on the phone and she was so nice. Oh, Johnny. Oh, how are you? Oh, what's going on? About 30 seconds in, I hear a voice in the background. Who's that on the phone? Russell, Russell. Those are the rustle of sheets. She was in bed with another dude talking to me. And it turns out, upon further review, I found this out later, the other person is where she was when I didn't know where she was when I had moved to Roseburg. Who was this person? A client of mine from Medford that she was having this affair with. Eventually, after I divorced her, she did marry him, and then she did die. What'd she die of? Couldn't tell you. I'm not sure. Was it what she said she had? Probably. But I just don't know. So I hope you see I had some work to do. And I am great today in terms of my relationships. Since then, I've had a wonderful 26-year marriage to Jana. She unfortunately passed away, and I've talked about that in a previous tape. But we really, and it took us a while, but we ended up having a resentment-free relationship. Isn't that awesome? With Linda, my current wife, we have a wonderful relationship and marriage. And it didn't take nearly as long to get it there because I was kind of already there and she was certainly open to it. We needed some fine tuning though. We needed some fine tuning. Early in my relationship with her, she has a couple kids and one of them was a daughter, and I had cooked some food for Linda, and the daughter came home and basically looked at her mother's plate, said, "What the hell are you doing, Mom?" Well, I was quite curious. Why is the daughter giving her mom shit like this about her plate of food that I cooked? Well, it turns out Linda hates black olives. And the daughter was pointing out there's black olives on the plate. What I hadn't really noticed is that Linda was picking it out of the food and piling it up. From her point of view, codependent as hell, she was going, I just want to be nice. I don't want to upset anyone. Once I realized what was happening, I said, what the hell's going on? You hate olives. If you don't tell me you hate olives, I'll be cooking this, or black olives, I'll be cooking this stuff again. If I can't trust you to tell me the truth about black olives, how can I trust you to tell me the truth about other things? And I'll tell you, after that one interaction, she will say I created a monster. I will say, I am so grateful that we can live in a resentment-free zone, because if any conflict or things come up, she tells me the truth about it, and then we quickly work our way through it. Broken picker, people. I had one. You can get over it. If you don't, if you maintain these rules in the workplace, you're going to go up in flames. I want to just circle back to the be emotionally available one in particular, because those of you who have this rule in your life will be good counselors. You'll be empathetic counselors. You'll really be there for your people, but you'll have all these unequal relationships in the rest of your life. It will be, you're the one who gets a late night phone call. You're the one that people dump all their problems on, and you don't allow yourself to get empathy partners for yourself. If you want to exist in this field for quite a while, you've got to learn to create relationships in your social world. Clients, that's your job, being emotionally available. But in your social world, you need people that sometimes you give, sometimes you get empathy. Sometimes it's about them, sometimes it's about you. Take a look, take an inventory. If you have people in your life that it's all about them, I have a name for them. They're called clients. If that's what your friendships are about, I would strongly encourage you to consider weeding your garden. Those are not good for you if you're going to be a professional helper. You need some relationships that you can be vulnerable with, you can get support with. So that's one of the ones I'd really encourage you to consider starting with, but working through these dysfunctional rules, they take a long time. I'm pretty much on the other side of them now. I don't think I'm cured of my addiction. If I drank tonight, I don't think that would go well. And it certainly in the future wouldn't go well. But these rules, they don't happen much with me anymore. There may be shadows of them here and there, but for the most part, I think these are resolved. I think we can, and I'm going to call all this as a group codependency, we can identify and heal from our codependency. And that is the last thing I have to say. Peace out.